Beautiful, brother.
You're going to have to give me a second. I have the hiccups of all things. Of all things to have right now.
That shouldn't affect the podcast at all.
I don't know what it is. I keep having these flu-like symptoms.
Oh, geez.
Coughing and no, I can't even joke. You can't even joke about that out here right now. Everybody's real spooked. I live in a town of about 1,500, and then up the road there's a town of about 10,000 that has a hospital. Doctor in the hospital has it.
Oh, boy.
And then, unfortunately, he's from, like, Turkey, and so he's not white. So, and I don't know how things are up there, but as silly as that sounds, I'm telling you, if this doctor was white, that's the worst part is he has, like, a private practice.
Oh, no.
And he was just working in the hospital, and they were saying that, like, he knew he had the flu, and he was telling people he felt sick, but he kept coming to work. As crazy as it sounds, if that was a white doctor, no one would accuse him of that.
Oh, no.
Not a single person. So me and my husband were talking about that, and we were like, man, if we're going to have an outbreak, we're too close to Houston. Too close. We're going to have an outbreak. I'm sorry. Literally, Houston has this huge road, I-10, that connects us straight to New Orleans. New Orleans is having a giant outbreak. And then we have Highway 45, which connects us to Dallas, which is having the other outbreak near us. It's just a matter of time.
This might be your last recording.
Have you ever read The Stand?
Yes, twice.
Okay, yeah, I love The Stand.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't recommend it if you're scared about the pandemic right now, but I always think about how that killed people our age. This one's not looking like it does, so I'm not that worried. But if I was an old person, I certainly would be.
Well, this is great. This is a great pre-show amble. I'm going to keep a lot of this because I think it ties into our topic today. I just want to say for the record, you're from Texas. Is that right?
Yes, yeah.
Are you trying to tell me Texas still has a problem with non-white people?
As shocking as that might sound, it's this bizarre phenomenon. And I know you're up in Montreal or you're in the French part right now.
That's right. The French province of Quebec, 45 minutes south of Montreal. Yeah.
What I find fascinating about the racism in Texas is that Texas used to be Mexico. Like, I remind people of that all the time. Texas was originally a Mexican state that became its own country and then joined the United States. And they're just like, I'm tired of all these Mexicans. I'm like, they've been here before you. Not even Native Americans. Literally, Mexicans colonized it, and then white people colonized it better and took it over. And they're just like, oh, these Mexicans. And I'm like, you love the music, you eat the food, you hire them to cut your grass. As long as they speak English, you don't seem to care. It's the weirdest thing. In Houston, there's a huge Vietnamese population. So there's certain parts of town where they put like Vietnamese street signs up, and white people lose their mind over that. And I'm just, why does it matter to you? Like, why do you care that there's another street sign under the one that says 5th Street that says it in Vietnamese? I don't know. I'm worried because I was looking into the Spanish flu. How come I've never heard very much about it? If it killed millions and millions of Americans, I was like, there's no Memorial Day for those people. There's no remembrance. There's nothing. And I looked into it, and the reason is that everybody acted so embarrassingly during it, blaming their neighbors and blaming the village next to theirs, that when it was over, nobody wanted to really talk about it anymore. They just wanted to move on. And then what am I seeing in my town? I'm seeing people go on literally on Facebook and post pictures of our patient zero, pictures of him with his name and his business address.
Oh, no.
Saying, let's ruin him. Let's not ever go. And I'm thinking, like, it's just started, you know?
Well, the good news is if you go to his office, there's no lineup.
I thought, poor guy, he's going to have to move. If there's something these old white people do, it's never forget something a brown person did to them, ever. And I've been curious, so like up there in Quebec, how much animosity is there between like English speakers and French speakers up there?
Well, I have a few listeners from Canada and a couple even from Quebec, so I'll tread lightly. It's like this, so just like we're experiencing in tech.
Off the mic, you've referred to them as non-humans, French-speaking non-humans.
That's right. These non-entities. It's like everywhere. I think anytime any culture or any race of people, I mean, from anywhere in the world, deals with something that's not their own, people have a weird way of acting. I think that's just the end of the day. Yeah. It's racism. It's just people don't know how to function. I'm not that way personally. I really don't care. I mean, it's too exhausting for me to be different.
It's a great word to explain it. Exhausting.
To think, oh, he's brown, he's black, he's gay, he's straight. My end of the day, are you an asshole or not? That's all I care about.
Welcome to the worst of the best podcast. You wanted the best. Well, they didn't freaking make it! So here's what you get. From Canada
and Texas,
Ryan and
Zip. Welcome to the Worst of the Best podcast. I am your host, and with me today we have a returning guest host, Zip, from the No Redeeming Qualities podcast. How you doing, Zip?
I am doing good. I got a bit of a chest cold and some flu-like symptoms and a real dry cough and not a very runny nose. But other than that, I think I'm good.
And you have a fever too, so you should be fine.
Yeah, I've got a fever, yeah.
You were on the Arnold Schwarzenegger episode, I believe. Mm-hmm. You've also guested on the Rocky series podcast that I do as well, I think at least once, if not twice.
I believe I've only done it for Rambo 5. We still haven't done Rocky.
Ironically.
We have not gotten around to Rocky. No, we're talking about some diseases here today.
Yes.
We just picked this topic randomly.
That's right. Yeah, it is.
It doesn't tie in with any current events going on.
Yeah, I had this topic in mind about 2 years ago. It just so happens we're in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
So yeah, things are crazy right now in the world. I thought to myself, because of the COVID-19 virus, I wonder what other...
Stop you right there.
Yeah, please.
I'm an American, so we call it China virus.
Oh.
So I need you to respect my culture.
Okay, my apologies.
No, I'm sorry.
That's the humor. That's the reason why you're on the show, Zip. You bring the humor. I love it. And I should say, we'll plug your show, of course, a million times. No Redeeming Qualities podcast is a favorite of mine. I've listened to every episode from the beginning. That is a true story. I love their shtick. Zip and Bob are funny. They're a little bit crass at times, which is fine. You guys have calmed down a little bit. You're a little bit more user-friendly than you were in the early days.
And we're also just getting older, I think. Yeah. You just get a little...
You're a little bit more Howard Stern 2020 than Howard Stern 1998.
That means a lot.
There you go. We've taken this list of 10 diseases in the world that affect the world every year, and this is actually from the World Health Organization. So that's a pretty reputable source, would you say?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to start at the bottom. This is the top 10 diseases. A lot of these diseases I've heard before, but I guess I was shocked, or maybe not shocked, about how many people die every year because of these diseases.
Everybody always thinks of like the Black Plague, and they think of these like sexy Stephen King nightmare kind of diseases, but usually it's your basic, very straightforward diseases that are the ones that really get the high up their numbers.
Yeah, so we're going to give these diseases the respect they deserve. So when people think of the deadly diseases in the world, they are probably right now jumping to the COVID-19. That's what their brain is going to, because it's in the headlines. Did you know that 56.5 million people died just in 2015 from these 10 diseases that we're going to talk about? That's a huge number.
It's a lot of people. It's the same thing where they're talking about like India is going on shelter in place, and that's 1 billion people. And it's hard to even wrap your mind around 1 billion people having to do something like that. But yeah, these are definitely some heavy hitters as far as diseases go.
The statistics that we're using are from 2000 to 2015. So we're going to talk about numbers of increase, decrease. How are these diseases doing today? So it's a couple years old, but obviously the numbers are still just as valid today as they were a few years ago.
All right, so we'll start with number 10, cirrhosis of the liver. Cirrhosis is the result of chronic and long-term scarring and damage to the liver. The damage may be the result of a kidney disease, or it can be caused by conditions like hepatitis and chronic alcoholism. So normally, a healthy liver filters harmful substances from your blood and sends healthy blood into your body. As the substances damage the liver, scar tissue forms. As more scar tissue forms, the liver has to work harder to function properly. Ultimately, the liver may stop working. For the most part, if you get cirrhosis of the liver, you're a booze hound. That's I always feel like that's a courtesy thing. They're like, it can also be a kidney thing. You're usually an alcoholic. It's usually, yeah. So the risk factors, like I said, chronic alcohol use, fat buildup around the liver, and then hepatitis. A real fun weekend. Stay away from behaviors that can lead to liver damage to help prevent cirrhosis. Long-term alcohol use and abuse is the leading cause of cirrhosis, so avoiding alcohol can help you prevent damage. Likewise, you can avoid non-alcoholic fatty liver disease by eating a diet that's healthy, rich in fruits and vegetables, and low in sugar and fat. And lastly, you can reduce your likelihood of contracting hepatitis by using protection during sex and avoiding sharing anything that could have traces of blood, like needles, razors, or toothbrushes. If you get cirrhosis of the liver, you kind of went out of your way to get it. Like,
I was just gonna say,
yeah, it's like, it doesn't seem like I woke up with cirrhosis one day. It's like never really shocked. How many people get told you have cirrhosis of the liver and like deep down truly feel like they don't understand what caused it?
of the 10, I think this one might be the most preventable.
Yeah, that's a very true point. It's ironic, too, because I think liver transplants are actually pretty easy because they could just cut part of somebody else's liver out and put it in you, but they won't do it if you're an alcoholic. I think most people, that's why they just don't get a liver transplant. Are you an alcohol drinker?
I drink socially, so no. Because I have no friends and I never go out, no.
Now's the time to pick up an alcohol problem.
Yeah,
There's
really.
nothing better to do, and you're probably going to die anyway.
That's true. Go out drinking. You should make note here of how many deaths a year approximately this
Oh,
causes.
yeah. 1.2 million deaths in 2015.
Right.
And I'm assuming that's worldwide, correct?
Yes. It's 2.1% deaths worldwide are caused just from drinking.
That's crazy. I mean, that's absolutely... Do you have any alcoholism in your family?
No, actually.
Alcoholism runs on the dad's side of my family like really bad, and so people have to really keep an eye on it. But I had an uncle who was just a full-blown alcoholic, but he was a really fun alcoholic, like goofy, silly.
Right.
And so like we would go stay at his house, and he would make us ice cream, and then he would put whiskey in his vanilla ice cream bowl. We put syrup on ours, and he would put whiskey, and we would laugh, and we thought that was so silly, not knowing how severe of a problem. And then he's long dead now.
Oh, you think?
Cirrhosis.
Yeah.
Cirrhosis. And then actually he was in this very interesting situation where he also smoked half a carton of cigarettes a day. So he had cirrhosis and lung cancer pretty much at the same time, but the cirrhosis is what did him in. So, yeah, that's been dead for 20 years. And it's not a secret that he was an alcoholic. Like everybody knew that he was an alcoholic.
He went out doing what he loved.
And that is what's sad about cirrhosis is it's one of those diseases that could be caused by a lifestyle problem. And the doctors will sometimes just tell them to not even bother to quit drinking.
Right.
They'll just say, you're 67 with like severe cirrhosis of the liver. You're dead in like 5 years anyway. So you might as well just keep drinking.
Yeah.
It's really sad, actually.
Well, number 9, I'm surprised this is still an issue. This is, I practice this word. I'm having a hard time. TB. Tuberculosis.
This might be the first time somebody else has a hard time saying a word.
Oh.
Tuberculosis.
Tuberculosis. There, I got it.
Consumption.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, consumption. That's right. Yeah, back in the old days in Texas. That's right. Doc Holliday had this, didn't he?
A lot of people have caught it. I don't know why they called it consumption, because I think you withered away.
Maybe.
Guess.
Well, it's a lung condition caused by bacteria called Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Okay. TB. I hate this word. I hate it. Why did I choose this one? It sounds like you have it. Oh, he's dying. It's a treatable airborne bacterium, although some strains are resistant to conventional treatments. And TB is one of the top causes of death in people who have HIV. About 35% of HIV-related deaths are TB-related.
Okay, I didn't know that part.
This is one of these ones where medical health care systems are obviously a huge help or a factor in preventing deaths. So I would say that people who die from TB, which is 1.3 million deaths a year, are probably people that don't have access to medication and treatment.
For a long time, tuberculosis was a huge problem in Russian prisons, to where a huge chunk of the people who caught it was like a Russian prison problem. And I see that the article says that it's fallen 1.5% since 2000, with a possible goal of it being eradicated by 2030. I've never even heard of tuberculosis being eradicated.
I'm an instructor at the recruit school here in Canada. Everyone gets tested for TB still, but it's very rare that I don't hear of anyone having it. But everyone's still tested for it.
Do they prick a little blood on their forearm?
Yeah. Yep. The risk factors are, of course, diabetes, HIV infection, a lower body weight, proximity to others with TB because it's infectious, it's airborne, and regular use of certain medications like corticosteroids, or drugs that suppress the immune system. So the best prevention then against TB is to get the BCG vaccine, goes without saying, and this is commonly given to children. So if you think you've been exposed to TB bacteria, you can start taking treatment medication called, oh my gosh, why do I have all these terrible words?
You got screwed on that.
Man.
Hemoprophylaxis.
Oh, man, you're good. To reduce the likelihood of developing the condition. So this one's a little bit more preventable. Vaccination, medicine, and of course, if you don't have these things, unfortunately, it still killed in 2015 1.3 million people.
It's a lot harder to hold tuberculosis against somebody than cirrhosis of the liver. You know, you can't really blame them for catching tuberculosis.
No, that's true. That's very true.
But yeah, tuberculosis is also one of those diseases that you're scared of, but I don't really think I even know what it does, truly, like what part of it kills you. I just know that what we said, it affects your lungs and stuff.
Probably breathing. Probably suffocates you.
It's just probably just the usual lungs quit working.
Ugh. And we should say for our listening audience who maybe just jumped on this episode just because of you, how it works here on the worst of the best. These are the best diseases that kill people, if that makes sense. These are the ones.
These are the diseases that are the best at being diseases.
There you go. Thank you. Well said. What we're going to do, and I don't know your pick and you don't know mine, and I'm still making my decision as we go through the list, which is often the case with the show. Which one is it that you would least likely want to die by?
Okay, well, speaking of what I don't want to die by, number 8.
Ugh.
Dehydration due to diarrhea.
Mm-hmm. This is a real issue.
Kills 1.4 million people. In the American Civil War, dysentery killed 1 out of every 5 soldiers.
Wow.
You had a better chance of shitting yourself to death in a ditch than you did getting hit by like a cannonball. Diarrhea is when you pass 3 or more loose stools in a day. If your diarrhea lasts more, I feel like I should really have to explain what diarrhea is, but if your diarrhea lasts more than a few days, your body loses too much water and salt, which will cause dehydration, which will cause death. Diarrhea is usually caused by an intestinal virus or bacteria transmitted through contaminated water or food. It's particularly widespread in developing nations with poor sanitary conditions. Diarrhea diseases, second top cause of death in children younger than 5 years old.
Breaks my heart.
About 760,000 children die from diarrhea each year.
That's crazy. Isn't that? That's
think about that. Yeah,
that's a mountain of children, of bodies of children. It just blows my mind.
I can see how it happens in like a war situation because there's a lot going on. But I just think about what a nightmare it has to be if you have a singular baby and the baby has such bad diarrhea that you literally cannot keep enough fluid in it.
It's crazy.
And it dies of dehydration, you know, because if you've ever had a really bad hangover and you get like a Pedialyte, diarrhea is what Pedialyte was created for, to essentially pump babies as full of many electrolytes as you can. So some risk factors for diarrhea include living in an area with poor sanitary conditions, no access to clean water, your age, with children being the most likely to have severe symptoms, being malnourished, and having a weakened immune system.
So either living in Africa or Detroit.
Yeah, eating at Taco Bell too much will also...
Del Taco.
Is Del Taco... Okay, is there Taco Bell up in Canada?
I think yes, yeah, but quick Del Taco story. So my family and I, we went to California Disneyland in 2010 might have been when we went. It was our first night in California. We just got off the plane, went to our little hotel. We couldn't believe it. 99 cents tacos. We thought that was fantastic.
That's what impresses the Canadian tourist family.
Yeah.
You're in beautiful Southern California and you're blown away that a taco is 99 cents.
So, being on a budget as a young family at the time, we're like, let's fill up with some Del Taco. Oh my God. I will just say, thankfully, the diarrhea episodes did pass before we entered the park the next day.
That is that Canadian family just was like, we're going to go to California. The first thing you do is eat a bunch of cheap tacos and get diarrhea. That is the American story. You should do This American Life and let them break that whole experience down.
Oh, man.
I don't think I've ever seen a Del Taco commercial.
So every time we see or hear of Del Taco, we think of our diarrhea.
I think there's Del Tacos out here, but out here in Texas, Taco Bell is your...
Right.
If you're looking for cheap tacos, that's your place. Bob, actually, my co-host, has a thing where he always says that about people whenever they make a joke about getting diarrhea from Taco Bell. He's like, look, if you're getting diarrhea every time you eat at a Taco Bell, you either need to quit eating at Taco Bell or you have a GI problem,
That's good. I like it. All right, so number 7, we're getting to some not so fun things.
This one's not very funny, but it is kind of funny, but it's not.
Right. Well, Alzheimer's disease kills 1.5 million people a year approximately. This is number 7 on our list. When you think of Alzheimer's disease or dementia, you might think of loss of memory, but you might not think of loss of life. Alzheimer's disease is a progressive disease that destroys memory and interrupts normal mental functions, and these include thinking, reasoning, and typical behavior. So basically, they turn into 5-year-old kids.
If you've ever had, I don't want to say deal with, because deal with is a little rude.
Well, no, family member, a close one, yeah.
If you've ever had to take care of somebody with Alzheimer's or dementia, it's frustrating. It's difficult. It's hard on them. It's hard on the people who take care of you. It's all around a real crap time.
Alzheimer's disease is the most common type of dementia. So 60 to 8% of dementia cases are, in fact, Alzheimer's, if that makes sense.
So all times that you have Alzheimer's, you have dementia.
Yes.
But you can have dementia from something that's not Alzheimer's disease.
That's right. Are you not pronouncing the Z?
I might not be. Alzheimer's.
It's Alzheimer's. It's Alzheimer's.
I, as a kid, thought it was called Old-timers disease.
That's what a lot of people call it.
What a rude thing to call a memory loss.
The disease starts off by causing mild memory problems, difficulty recalling information, and slips in recollection. Then over time, however, the disease progresses and you may not have memory of large periods of time. 2014 study found that the number of deaths in the U.S. due to Alzheimer's may be higher than reported.
Now that I think about it, man, it would have been about 10 years ago. I was a young man. I was an adult. And my dad had just gotten married. My stepmom, his wife, moved into his house. Well, her mother moved in too. It was like my step-grandmother.
Right.
And I had met my stepmom a million times. I'd never met her mother. Time goes by. I go over to my dad's house, and I have a key. So I just open the door and let myself in.
Right.
I'm not going to sit there and knock at my dad's house. Well, I don't know. My dad's out back working on something, and his mother-in-law, my step-grandmother, is in the living room. And I just open that door, and I walk in, and I put my hand up, hello. And she looks at me, and she has these big saucer plate eyes, and she's just, I can see she's in like absolute crisis panic mode, and she's like frozen staring at me, and I'm looking at her like, hey, and she just starts screaming and just runs out, called my dad, and was just saying, there's a home invader, there's a home invader, there's a home invader. My dad didn't tell me that she had severe dementia.
Oh no.
Did you not think that was something I would need to know? Because I walked right into your house, and so she didn't remember me, so she thought I was just a guy breaking into her house. And that's kind of my dad in a nutshell, is like, you didn't think that was important. You didn't think severe memory loss was something that people need to know when they talk to somebody. I was going to say rest in peace to my father. He got bit by a spider, and he's dying now. So
what?
My dad claims he got bit by a spider on his porch yesterday, and now he's being really dramatic about it when he's texting me. And I'm just making fun of him.
That's awesome.
I grew up, I was like super scared of my dad. He was like one of those kind of guys.
Sure.
And then he's such a wiener when he gets sick. That's the funniest thing that you learn when you're an adult.
Yeah.
Just a complete wiener.
I have adult children right now. When I raised them, I was a wiener right away, so they're not surprised when they become adults. Well, here's some of the risks of Alzheimer's. Being older than 65, a family history of the disease, thus you're inheriting the genes for the disease from your parents, existing mild cognitive impairment, Down syndrome, unhealthy lifestyle, being female, being shut off from a community, or having poor engagement with other people for extended periods of time.
It's like if you've ever visited an old folks' home, if you wonder why they go so out of their way to have them playing bingo and doing all that stuff, that's why, because it's been proven if they just sit in their room and watch Fox News all day, they'll develop Alzheimer's.
That's crazy. So it's interesting. Did you ever watch Dumb and Dumber?
Yeah.
The Jim Carrey character talks about that older lady. Do you remember what he said?
I don't. What did he say?
You have change of $1?
Change? No, I'm sorry, I don't.
Oh, well, could you do me a favor and watch my stuff here while I go break $1?
Of course.
Thanks. Hey, I guess they're right. Senior citizens, although slow and dangerous behind the wheel, can still serve a purpose. I'll be right back. Don't you go dying on me!
I love that.
It makes me think of Old School. They're doing the funeral for the old man, and I think it's either Vince Vaughn or Will Ferrell says that. He's like,
Look, please don't beat yourself up over this thing, Mitch. It's not your fault. Damn it, Blue is old. That's what old people do. They die. Sorry.
and then it zooms out, and there's like a bunch of old people around him.
The leading cause of death amongst old people is death, yeah. Yeah, there's no current way to prevent Alzheimer's, but one thing that may be helpful in reducing your risk of the disease is a diet that's high in fruits and vegetables, low in saturated fats. I have found that when you're on a healthy diet, whatever the diet call it, South Beach, keto, I don't care, low sugar, low carbs, low processed food would be your key. Fresh food, low sugar. It prevents so much. It's crazy, from cancer to everything. They've proven that sugar, refined sugar, processed sugar is not the best thing for your body. Neither is alcohol or smoking. Go figure.
That's true.
We're not health professionals. We just want to make that clear. Healthy diet seems to be a lot of the prevention for a lot of these. Put it this way, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it ever is going to put you at risk to eat some vegetables every so often.
Yeah, can you imagine? The number one cause of cancer is vegetables. Yeah,
that's right. Right now, there's the panic buying going on. Thankfully, we live in a rural area, so our grocery stores haven't been quite picked clean. But I go down there when the panic started, and like all the meat was gone.
Yeah, it's weird.
Even if you have a big freezer, why is this your priority? You get some non-perishables. I just noticed that Alzheimer's kills 1.5 million people a year. Did we say that? That's a lot. I didn't know it was that many.
Yeah.
All right, number 6, diabetes. This one's probably in my future. Diabetes is a group of diseases that affect insulin production and use. In type 1 diabetes, the pancreas can't produce insulin. The cause of that is unknown. Mm-hmm. And in type 2 diabetes, the pancreas doesn't produce enough insulin, or that insulin just cannot be used effectively. Type 2 diabetes can be caused by a number of different factors, including poor diet, lack of exercise, and being overweight. Yes. People in low to middle income countries are more likely to die from complications of diabetes. Risk factors in prevention: excess body weight, high blood pressure, older age, not exercising, and an unhealthy diet. While diabetes isn't always preventable, you can control the severity of symptoms by exercising regularly and maintaining good nutrition. Also, adding more fiber to your diet can help with controlling your blood sugar. So diabetes is a pretty popular one. Everybody probably knows at least somebody. Mm-hmm. I would imagine everybody at least knows somebody who has type 1 and type 2. Mm-hmm. Kills 1.6 million a year. Type 1 you're born with. You can't really get rid of it. But type 2 you develop, and you can actually get rid of it.
Yes. Yeah.
If you just change your diet good enough. Diabetes is a nightmare for a country like mine. U.S. has a problem with diabetes because you're getting hit kind of on all sides. So you get hit on the initial of that we are just a kind of fat people. We are just a large people that like to eat and drink. That puts you at risk of diabetes. It's further complicated by our absolute diehard refusal to do anything with universal health care. You know, I live in the rural south of the United States. So there's a lot of people out here who definitely are not on board with universal health care. They're scared it's going to cost a lot. When a guy catches diabetes, when you think about how much it would cost to sit him down and tell him what diabetes is, because that's the craziest thing. Like, I've met people out here don't understand what it is.
Right.
They don't even know why they have it. If you would just spend that money and get them healthy, it's a lot cheaper than letting his foot literally start to rot off. And then now the taxpayer has to pay for his amputation and his prosthetic and his medicine. And so that's why a place like the United States, we get decimated by a thing like diabetes because we don't have access to health care and we're uninformed.
And it's not always a weight thing.
That is also true.
It doesn't help. But 5-6 years ago, I was doing blood work in the military, and I hate to spout off the keto diet, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm just telling you what worked for Ryan. That's all I'm doing here. So I was doing blood work, and the doctor said to me, I forget what the numbers were, but he said, you're in danger there, Ryan, of close to getting type 2 diabetes. And I looked at myself, and I looked at him and said, I'm going to get diabetes. Look at me. I'm not obese. And he said, well, it's not always just a matter of just being quite, having extra pounds on you, but your blood sugar and your high blood pressure it's causing all the right things that your body is prone to. Some people can just be prone to it. So I started the keto diet and got blood work, and after 6 months, all signs and symptoms of every blood work came back amazing. And it's just a diet change. The danger of getting type 2 diabetes is now gone if I keep up the quote-unquote healthy eating, no sugar, go figure. Not Ruben, but my brother Jason, who's been on the show a couple times, he has type 1. He was born with it. And thankfully, with medication, it's, he's with us today, which is wonderful. At 14, he got diagnosed with it. He's lived with that for 30 years.
You can always tell when a fat person's amputation was diabetes related. You could always tell because what are the odds that you're morbidly obese and you got attacked by a shark? Like what is more likely here?
Yeah, the 300-pound surfer or...
It is scary. Like, this is a disease that I am absolutely 100% in the risk factor for.
Well, no, you're a very handsome man. Don't you worry about it.
Oh no, I mean I'm overweight. I'm not gonna deny that. Yeah, so this is one where I'm actually looking at kind of myself, and I'm like, I'm 30. I might need to start turning the ship around so I can not be dead by the time I'm 50.
I know you can do it. And I know you've talked to me offline about keto, so I'd recommend it.
That's the thing. I'm more than capable of losing the weight. I know exactly what I need to do. Like I just can't get myself to do it. That's
cocaine.
You see, yeah, that
won't work either. Okay, all right.
I mean, it will. I just don't want to. I can't afford a coke.
Is it still expensive? Cocaine? I don't even know. Is it expensive? In the 80s, it seemed to be the thing, but I don't know if I wonder if it's still running the price tag.
I don't do enough cocaine to give you an accurate answer to that.
Well, get back to me on that. Let me know.
Yeah, I'm sure the Navy would love to hear you.
Oh, right. That's right. I think I have some military listeners. Okay, I was just joking, guys. Whew,
I do love people. I knew when I was in the military, I knew guys who would pop hot on cocaine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I get weed because weed's in your system for a bit. But I'm like, cocaine is in your system for 2 to 3 days.
Yeah. We don't do random blood checks here, though. Or P checks, I mean. We don't do them here.
Oh, really? Oh, my God. They do it constantly in the United States. If you take any leave, it's an automatic drug test when you come back.
Oh, they just don't trust you guys.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you take a 2-day leave or a 30-day leave. You come back, you automatically get...
I've been in for 17 years in the military. We do blood work and what have you, and you do give urine samples, but it's always, you're there for a reason, it's voluntary or whatever it might be. It's or for a deployment, we do a screening for deployments. Do your blood, but it's for medical reasons to make sure you're healthy, but it's never random. A never random urine check, ever.
And I don't know about the other branches, but the Marine Corps, you would probably be embarrassed at how much time, money, and effort the Marine Corps spends constantly drug testing everybody. And they always do it in the most inefficient way. So my favorite is they make everybody in the whole company get in one long line to go into the bathroom because you have to have a pecker checker looking at your penis.
Yep.
And they don't break it up. They make everybody drink a bunch of water and then get in the 200-person line. And then somebody at the end's like, I'm about to piss in my pants right now. And they're like, well, you're at the end of the line. Eventually, they either piss in their pants or they just say, I can't do this. I have to go pee. And they go pee. And then they have to go sit and drink more water to get at the end of the line.
Oh, man.
Just to pee again. And then so it's this thing that takes 9 hours to get everybody through. And it's just the most inefficient system anyway. But anyway, we're talking about diabetes. So that's so just take care of your pancreas, and your pancreas will take care of you.
Unless it's you're born with it, which they don't know why, but that just happens. Okay. Number 5, trachea, bronchus, and lung cancers. So respiratory cancers, including cancers of the trachea, larynx, and bronchus and lungs. The main causes are smoking, secondhand smoke, and environmental toxins. But household pollution such as fuels and mold also contribute. So a 2015 study reports that respiratory cancer accounts for about 4 million deaths annually. In developing countries, researchers project an 81 to 100% increase in respiratory cancers due to pollution and smoking. Many Asian countries, especially India, still use coal for cooking.
Oh, man. Clean burning coal.
Oh, man. Solid fuel emissions account for 17% of lung cancer deaths in men and 22% in women. 1.7 million deaths in 2015, 3% of the deaths worldwide, and it's actually on the increase, I guess, as cities get bigger and...
Yeah, pollution and urbanization and all that. And
risk factors of prevention are don't smoke, don't live in these areas that blow smoke in your face. Other risk factors for these cancers include family history and exposure to environmental factors such as diesel fumes. So aside from avoiding fumes and tobacco products, it isn't known if there's anything else that can be done to prevent lung cancers. However, early detection can improve your outlook and reduce the symptoms of respiratory cancer.
I think with lung cancer, though, I'm sure the lion's share is going to be either cigarette smoking related or you worked in a coal mine.
And if you do both, boy.
Well, or both, yeah. You a cigarette smoker?
Me? Do you ask if I am?
As I start coughing. Sorry.
Oh, you okay?
Yeah, I was going to say, do you smoke cigarettes?
No.
Not your bag. My mom, when she died, we had gotten so wrapped up in all her constant lying about, well, lying is a little harsh, but she was like in such denial that she was sick that she didn't want anyone to know anything.
Right.
And so when she died, the only people who even knew something was wrong were one of her siblings, her mother, her boyfriend, and their 2 children. One of her sisters, one of her brothers. Literally every other person. I was in charge of Mom's estate. Mom kept thinking, she's like, I'm going to check out of the hospital next week. And we're like, you're not checking out of the hospital anytime soon. And she's like, well, I'm supposed to have lunch with Susie on Tuesday. And then so Mom dies, and I have to just pick up the phone and be like, oh, hey, Susie, yeah, I see in the calendar you're supposed to have lunch with Mom on Tuesday. I don't think that's going to happen, you know. Wait, what? And it's, yeah, she's dead. And then it's just, I talked to her last week, and it's, well, she's dead now. I don't know what to tell you. Some people are just so secretive about all their medical stuff. And I'm kind of an open book. I don't really care.
I think it's our generation too. Like, I'd rather people just know what it is I'm dealing with, whatever. So if and when something happens to me, then it's like, oh yeah, well, we knew and we're sorry, but we knew.
Yeah.
Like, it shouldn't be a shock.
It's a mixture of I'm just an open book, and also I talk all the time, so it doesn't really matter about what it is.
Right.
Your lung cancers, well, actually, it's not even lung. It also is trachea.
Right.
Trachea. So
Yeah,
throat cancer.
lung.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh. That's what cigar smoking gets you.
Yeah, and chewing.
Ugh. Oh, God. I dipped for a long time, and I look back on that, and I don't know how I did. It is such a gross habit.
It is.
I'm sure that's prominent in the Navy, though.
Yeah, a lot of people do, and I hate seeing it.
Number 4, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. This kills 3.1 million people a year worldwide.
Oh.
And what it is it's a long-term progressive lung disease that makes breathing difficult. Chronic bronchitis and emphysema are types of COPD. In 2004, about 64 million people around the world were living with it.
It's probably the same number today, approximately.
This one probably hasn't changed very much.
Yeah.
So risk factors include smoking or secondhand smoke, lung irritants like chemical flames, family history, or having a history of respiratory infections as a child. There is no cure for it, but its progression can be slowed down with medication. The best way to prevent COPD are to stop smoking and to avoid secondhand smoke and other irritants. People always kind of bunch in emphysema with lung cancer because they're both kind of the end result of cigarette smoking.
Right.
But I think the difference is that, like, cancer is a thing that grows inside of your lungs, whereas this is kind of damage just to the lungs themselves.
Yeah.
Kind of long-term, the actual lungs themselves are starting to fall apart on you. Emphysema, when I was a little kid, our neighbor was a chain smoker, and he had emphysema and had the oxygen tank and everything.
Right.
That stuff scared the hell out of me. You know, and then I went on to smoke myself, but still.
Oh, you're a smoker?
So it didn't. Not anymore.
Okay.
I quit smoking cigarettes about 4 or 5 years ago.
Good.
And then I picked it back up last year, but only for a couple months because I was trying to quit something else. So I kind of leapfrogged from one bad habit back to another.
Right.
But yeah, I haven't been a regular cigarette smoker in a long time. And then I quit dip about 2 or 3 years ago.
Good. Now we just gotta get you off that soda pop.
Hey, you see the sugar is actually the soda is not the biggest of the problem. Diet's definitely
What do you drink? Soda?
like fully loaded soda. I usually prefer Diet Coke, which it's no substitute for water, but
Yeah. Stay hydrated with Diet Coke.
I don't want to say that like it's healthy to drink Diet Coke.
When we like to have a treat, like if at a restaurant or whatever, Diet Coke is totally allowed. There is no sugar, but yeah, there's other quote unquote chemicals. You're not living off of it, of course. Yeah.
No.
Let's go to number 3, lower respiratory infections. So a lot of lung issues, which shouldn't be surprising.
3, 4, and 5 on this list all involve your lungs.
Yeah.
And this is obviously made before coronavirus. So something to keep in mind is that if you're somebody who catches coronavirus and you have to go to the hospital, the people who are catching and suffering from diseases 3, 4, and 5, still exist, still need that equipment, and they still need that respirator in the hospital bed. So that's why they're so desperate to get people to stay home, is you still have to treat all these other lung people. And then just to be graphic.
No, go ahead.
In the United States, we have the ventilator shortage, which I'm sure that's a very common thing in every country.
Yeah.
What people have to understand about those ventilators is that if you're in a situation where you're going, oh my God, Ryan, we're losing Ryan, he needs a ventilator, that window is this big. To go from he needs a ventilator to get him hooked up to a ventilator, essentially hold your breath. How long can you just hold your breath for? So when they say these people need the ventilators, they can't wait. You're going, do we have it? We don't? Well, this person's dying. Move on to the next person.
Yeah, I know.
So stay home, please.
This message brought to you by the coalition of the Worst of the Best podcasts and the No Redeeming Qualities podcast.
It's especially difficult in America because I know economically your culture is very different from ours. I understand there are some people who are literally faced with, I'm either going to lose my house and my job or I can stay home.
Right.
And I'm thankfully not in that situation. But I do understand that there are people who have to pick between their job and stopping a global pandemic. But yeah, please, for the love of God, if you can stay home, stay home. Anyway, I'm sorry. Number 3, lower respiratory infections.
Actually, a very good point. Like you're saying, these numbers don't change because COVID-19 is now in the world. And because of that, if these millions, quite frankly, millions of people who have or currently have these diseases also get the flu, that's probably a lot of people who are dying. That's the weakened immune system, that their lungs are already weak, and now you've just kind of thrown this fuel to the fire of your body.
Not to scare people, but hospitals are literally doing triage.
Yes, that's
in
what
places
exactly
like
it is.
New York City.
Yeah.
And triage might sound like this horrible, cruel thing, but you got to put yourself in the doctor's perspective. And that's literally what they're going to do is your grandparent could be mixed amongst 10 other old people who are dying. And that nurse literally is taking a pen and just marking,
yes,
this one's going to live, this one's going to die, this one's going to live.
When you have a multiple casualty situation, triage, for those who maybe don't quite know what it means, it's just you're going through, who can I save? And I've got a certain amount of time and a certain amount of people. Who is it that if I spend time on this person, they're going to live? If I spend time on this person, 3 other people might die. You have to say, who's the least amount of people that are going to die with the amount of time that I have, with the equipment that I have?
You and I and a third person got brought in, and your neck has been slit open, and you've got like a drop of blood left in your body, and I have a broken foot, and then the other person is very, very wounded but going to live. They're not going to help me or you because you're going to die no matter what, and I'm going to live no matter what.
Right.
And even though I'm going to suffer, usually you think of that in like a military hospital, but no, that's happening in the hospital in your community,
right now.
Or it will be when the outbreak gets there.
Yeah.
I don't know what the temperament is in Canada, but down here we still have people calling it a hoax. We still have people saying they don't believe that it's real, that it's a power grab by the government.
We have people up here, of course, that feel that way. If you think it's a hoax, there's just too many players now. Like, come on.
That's the thing about conspiracy theory people, and you've done episodes on conspiracy theories, is it doesn't matter if 99% of it doesn't make sense. They find the 1% that does, and then they go from there.
Right.
But anyway, lower respiratory infections.
All right, so it can be due to influenza, the flu, pneumonia, bronchitis, which nobody has time for.
Then I ran out. I didn't grab no shoes or nothing, Jesus. I ran for my life. And then the smoke got me. I got bronchitis. Ain't nobody got time for that.
And TB. So viruses usually cause this lower respiratory infection. So you can already have it from a previous flu. They can also be caused by bacteria. So coughing, of course, is the main symptom of a lower respiratory infection. You may also feel breathlessness, wheezing, and a tightening feeling in your chest. So untreated lower respiratory infections can lead to breathing failure and, of course, death. 3.5 million people died approximately every year because of this. Crazy. So I wonder, and that's the argument now, is how many people have this that are dying that maybe are being said that it's a COVID-19 issue. So that's the problem with numbers.
I think it's kind of like a chicken and the egg kind of thing. If I get COVID-19 and it beats me within an inch of my life, but then I catch the flu, and the flu is what kills me,
which one,
or the vice versa. Yeah. If I have the flu and the flu wrecks me, but then I catch COVID-19 and then die.
Well, it's like AIDS, right? A common cold will kill somebody with AIDS. What killed them, the cold or AIDS?
Yeah, that's a good example.
Yeah.
Okay, number 2, stroke. Getting away from lungs. Strokes kill 6.2 million people.
It's a lot higher than I thought.
So a stroke occurs when an artery in your brain is blocked or leaks. This causes the oxygen-deprived brain cells to begin dying within minutes. During a stroke, you feel sudden confusion or have trouble walking and seeing. If left untreated, a stroke can cause long-term disability. So risk factors include high blood pressure, family history of stroke, being a smoker, being African American,
Right.
and being female. There is sickle cell anemia, which is a blood disease that literally only affects black people. The gene that gives you black skin is also the gene that makes you susceptible to disease, something like that.
Okay.
I don't know if being black puts you at risk of being higher for stroke or if it's a cultural thing, though, because I've heard both sides. I've heard that African Americans have a lot of diabetes and high blood pressure and stuff, but it might just be their diet. I've also heard that black people just have a lot of high blood pressure because of racism.
Oh, jeez.
I've heard that they say that just living in an environment like that
Of constant, fear and stress, sure.
be yelled at all the time.
So
Some risk factors of stroke can be reduced with preventative care, medications, and lifestyle change. In general, good health will lower your risk.
Right.
So strokes kind of seem like unless you're taking a medicine that can cause you to stroke out, strokes just kind of seem like they happen.
you should avoid smoking, drink in moderation, because these increase your risk. That scares me. Yeah.
Stroke does kind of scare me. I'm not in the risk area for it yet. So yeah, strokes kill a surprising amount of people, and outside of general preventative maintenance and care, there's really not a whole lot I think you can do. There are anti-stroke medicines, but they're probably only given to people who've already suffered one.
Right.
We always think about like people not being able to speak when they have a stroke. That's the part that scares me of having a stroke, is not necessarily the numbness, it's the not being able to talk. That's the part that seems like it would be really freaky.
Okay, so number one, now if people who are listening are wondering, what could be number one? Now, before I say what it is, you're going to be like, oh, of course, but this is now, 2015, and I'm sure it's the same now because it's only on the rise, 8.8 million people died from the number one killer, the number one killer disease in the world is heart disease or coronary artery disease. So this is the deadliest disease in the world. Although it's still the leading cause of death, mortality rates have declined, though, in many European countries and in the U.S. This may be due to the better public health education and access to healthcare and forms of prevention. However, in many developing nations, still mortality rates of CAD are on the rise, and increasing lifespan, socioeconomic changes, and lifestyle risk factors play a role in the rise. Okay, so here are some risk factors. High blood pressure, high cholesterol, smoking again. Boy, just don't smoke. Family history of CAD, diabetes. So diabetes kind of rolls into this. So if you have diabetes, you can die from that, or you can also just get a heart attack. And just being overweight. Talk to your doctor if you have any of these risk factors. Ways we can prevent it: exercise regularly, maintain a healthy weight and diet, eat a balanced diet, avoid smoking, and drinking only in moderation. I like how it says avoid smoking, like cigarettes are being randomly tossed in your mouth that you have to suck down. You're dodging the smokes.
I think what's interesting is that they always tell you to drink alcohol in moderation and eat bad food in moderation, but just avoid smoking.
As well, it sounds like smoking really just damages you.
Yeah, just don't even smoke. Don't even do it in moderation.
Well, because if you think about it, I mean, they talked about pollution being an issue. You're basically just sucking on your own pollution. You're like, here's pollution intake. Or like, I'm just literally putting my mouth over the pipe of a car.
And now that marijuana is getting more and more legalized everywhere, especially in North America, I love a good joint. I don't know if we could talk about that on here, but it's legal in Canada, right?
Legal in Canada, so knock your socks off, yeah.
I love a good joint every so often, but, well, how is this not bad for your lungs? So I looked it up, and apparently just smoking a marijuana cigarette does not really do any damage to your lungs. Mm-hmm. It is specifically tobacco smoke and all the chemicals and shit.
It's the chemicals, right? It's not smoke. Like it's like saying campfire smoke. Though you don't, smoke will kill you because smoke inhalation will.
Having anything in your lungs that's not supposed to be there is probably going to cause problems.
Right.
Heart disease kills. Did you say it killed 8.8 million? God, that is crazy.
Of the 56 million people that have these combined diseases, 15% of them die with heart disease. That's what those numbers are.
Got it.
But still,
it's still a lot of people.
That's right. So 56 is, if you're one of the 56 million people who have one of these diseases, you have a 15% chance dying of the heart disease. That's how it works.
The reality of the situation is I mean, I am a walking like late 50s heart attack. Like that's,
Stop it.
I mean, I tell my husband that all the time. I say, you know, I think about like we're hoping to have a baby in the next year or two, and I'm just thinking like, I'm glad I don't have to do all the high school stuff because I'll be gone by then.
Stop it. Don't say that.
That's stuff for the stepdad to deal with.
My wife's 8 years younger than me, and I always tell her, when I die, I would fully expect you to find a younger, handsome, richer man. By all means, I give you my full blessing.
My husband's 5 years younger than me, and I always tell him, like, you're 5 years younger than me and significantly more healthy than me. You need to be prepared for the last third of your life to spend it alone, you know?
Right.
Like, we need to plan for that. My grandparents actually did that. My grandpa was a real big dude, and my grandma was like super healthy. And they even talked about like, well, we need a plan for when I die, and then you're alive for the last 15 years. And that's kind of what's happened. So,
oh, wow. Yeah. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Those are the top 10 diseases. There's probably others, of course, but those are the top 10 killers in the world. Yeah. 56 to 60 million a year. I'm sure the number hasn't changed in the last 5 years. Are dying every year. That's a lot of numbers. And not to say the COVID-19 isn't a serious issue, and it should not be, should not be social distancing or whatever you want to call it to prevent spread, because I think it exacerbates issues it's going to exacerbate issues. That's why they're saying those who get it, those who have pre-existing conditions right now who get the virus, that's why it's dangerous for those people in particular.
And something to point out about COVID and those statistics, I see people say that too. They're like, this many people die of heart attacks every year. People die. And it's like, that is true. But that heart attack death, if you look at the 5 million people who die this year from heart attacks, a good chunk of those were long term, like long time in the coming, a long time in the making. 30 years of lifestyle choices led to that heart attack that killed you. You caught COVID 3 days ago, and now you're dead.
Right.
That's the difference.
Yeah. It's aggressive.
Yeah, it's aggressive, and it's here. When the outbreak first started, people were talking about the swine flu from about 10 years ago. And they were like, the swine flu killed 20,000 Americans. And so far, COVID's only killed 3 people. And I'm like, that's like going, more people died in World War I than in the first week of World War II. So World War I was worse. It's like, that's a stupid statement. It doesn't mean anything. What does that have? I don't know what the temperament is in Canada, but there are a lot of people down here. There's usually a coincidence that the people who are most desperate for this thing to be a hoax also happen to be diehard supporters of a certain American political figure.
Oh, that's good. That's vague enough. That's vague enough.
That seems like a coincidence to me, but there's definitely people who are fighting tooth and nail to deny that this is happening. It's like a horror movie. As soon as it started in China, how is this not going to happen here?
Right.
I was blown away that people didn't immediately panic. How is it not going to spread? And look where we are.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You guys are in a much better situation to deal with than we are, though, because you can tell people to stay home and people have health care and stuff. We don't have any of that.
Yeah, I know. That's crazy. I feel bad for you guys.
It's embarrassing, and like, I love America. I'm an American, born and raised. I'll probably be, unless the country breaks apart, I'll probably be here for the rest of my life.
Right.
Things like the healthcare are kind of embarrassing because I'm like, how do we brag that we're the mightiest country, we're number one, but we have our people dying in the street while our neighbors in Canada and Mexico are handling it?
I don't know.
It's embarrassing is that Mexico is apparently preventing Americans from fleeing to Mexico right now.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of Texans that have ties into Mexico that are trying to get out of here. If you want to know how creepy it is, I live in an area that is near a lake. So a lot of these houses, the fancy houses, are part-time houses.
Right.
People who live down in the city and they own this as their second house. My buddy is the mailman out here. And he said that they have been overwhelmed with requests from people who have their second house for the mail service to set them up a mailbox there because they're moving from the city to their second house out here.
Jeez.
So people in Houston are just fleeing the city because they know what's coming,
Yeah, right.
Hopefully we don't look back on this episode in a couple months and go, well, that was quaint when they were joking about it.
This will probably be out in a week or two, so hopefully the world is getting better by then. So when people are listening to this... Yep.
I want to be optimistic.
Let's just say when this episode gets released, it will be, they had nothing to worry about, will be the discussions that people are going to...
Yeah, that's very true.
Okay. of these 10, Zip, if you had to choose, which one is the last one on your list that you'd want to suffer?
The one I should worry about is probably the heart attack and diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
Cirrhosis really scares me because I've seen what it does. But if I had to pick, it'd be dementia.
Oh, wow. Explain.
I do not want dementia. I would much rather my heart pop and me just die in the kitchen than die in an old folks' home, not knowing my name, not remembering my family, not remembering anybody, being confused. That just sounds like hell on earth. I would rather just go and just fall and be dead in the mud than, because then you got to think about my sister and my husband and your children. And so, yeah, dementia scares the shit out of me.
I agree. So I have a kind of a stipulation. I know it's kind of cheating. I totally agree with you, and I think a lot of people probably would agree with you, and I do too, about Alzheimer's. What does make it terrible, and you hinted at it before, was what it does to other people. Even if you have cancer or if you have other diseases, at least you can have a conversation with your loved one saying, I'm dying.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're like, I know that I'm dying. My lungs, I can't breathe. Well, at least we can say goodbye to each other, and I love you. You can have a conversation with somebody even as you're dying. Your mental faculties are still in place. Whereas, unfortunately, somebody with Alzheimer's, it's just, you're beside your loved one, and you can't even properly say goodbye because the person's like, who are you?
It's like, have you ever seen The Notebook?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not ashamed to admit it's a very sad movie.
Yeah, well, and it showcases in a Hollywood way, but still a real way of what it's like for people. But I will have one little stipulation. The only on a selfish note, this is just so I agree with that choice. I think it would be hard pressed to prove Alzheimer's is the worst way to go for everyone involved. But on a selfish note, because if I truly had Alzheimer's, I wouldn't even be aware of what I'm doing to people. But with a stroke, what scares me the most about a stroke is not dying from one, but surviving one.
and being paralyzed on one side.
Yes, I admit that's a selfish thing. I totally understand that. But just being paralyzed on my face or the side of my body. So selfishly speaking, living with the effects of a major stroke would, half my body paralyzed or face paralyzed is like, ugh, that scares me to death. So that actually scares me. These other things don't scare me. The non-selfish part of me is I wouldn't want to hurt other people with my living with Alzheimer's. The selfish part of me is me personally living with half of my body frozen because of a stroke. And so there you go. It's kind of cheating. But
if it's possible for me to have a disease that caused others to suffer, I would probably take. Like, did you see Logan?
Yeah, of course, yeah. With
I want whatever seizures those are that Professor X has that causes everybody else to be in pain.
Yeah. I don't think that's part of the list here. What superpower disease can I have that affects everybody?
If I had to pick which one's going to kill me and kill me quick, I might say tuberculosis, just so everybody could say the consumption got me.
Yeah,
he died of the consumption.
I think we're all in agreement that Alzheimer's ultimately is the worst. I think
probably
it's
the worst. Yeah.
Even though it doesn't kill the most people, it's the worst way to go for everyone involved.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's a fun episode.
A little gloomy, but what isn't gloomy is if you survive this global pandemic, you can still go to nrqpodcast.com and you can listen to the No Redeeming Qualities podcast every Monday, and you can find us wherever podcasts are found. We actually, just at the time that we're recording this, had our first episode of a YouTube show. We are attempting a monthly YouTube show for our patrons. We decided to make it free for everybody. So if you go to the NRQ, the No Redeeming Qualities YouTube channel, you can watch that. It's got visuals and stuff. It's a YouTube show. Other than that, mostly we deal with the podcast. So that's nrqpodcast.com.
Like I said, I'm a big supporter and listener of your show, so I highly recommend that for our listeners. And you go ahead and plug, you are a network. You are actually
Yes, yeah. We are Gamma Gator Productions, which is our air quotes network. We also do other non-sexy stuff, like we do voice work and editing services for people. But we also make podcasts. So we have No Redeeming Qualities. And then we have a political podcast called One Big Toilet, which is about American politics. And for a long time, it was covering the Democratic primary. But now we're kind of shifting back to doing more themed episodes. So the one that just came out was about stock buybacks.
It's on my queue right now.
If you've heard about what a stock buyback is, you want to know a little bit more information, check out One Big Toilet and you can learn more. Third show on our network is called State Your Take. That's another Houston-based podcast. It's a comedy show, more about African-American centric. State Your Take. Go subscribe to them. Give them a listen.
And they're great.
Gamma Gator Productions.
And I listened to both. I listened to all three. Because that's how much I support you guys and what you do. And I love all their shows. I love their takes.
Yeah. It's easy right now, and there's 3 shows. We're hoping to add a couple more in the future as we grow. The virus is definitely thrown everything off course, but sometime in the next year, I hope to have a website finally for everything. So
awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for listening, everyone. And remember, in front of every silver lining, there's a cloud, and we're here to help you find it. Thanks, Zip.
no problem. Let's put breakfast food on the back burner because you're in quarantine. I'm on quarantine, so we can.
Yeah. There's no rush. No, I was
make it work.
That's fine.
And I did notice the list was American breakfast food. Is there not a big enough difference between Canadian?
We'll just call it breakfast food. Let's call it
Okay,
North America. Really, Canadian American.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same.
Okay. Is there any Canadian dish?
Well, you could say crepes.
Crepes. There you go. That would probably be.
Yeah.
See, but we even know what crepes are. I know what they are. I've never eaten them.
Right.
If it wasn't for Ricky Bobby, I don't know if I'd even know what a.
That's funny. Yeah, good one.
It's always a little long-winded when I'm on here.
No, it's. I should have expected that. I shouldn't even assume we'd have time for a second one, but.
But we will ultimately. So just let me know.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Just give me the list, and I love doing this kind of format is my favorite. So you just tell me what it is you need done, and we'll do it. So
awesome.
As long as it's something I know about, if you were doing like top 10 anime characters.
No, I don't have any of those. That's awesome. I really do appreciate it there, Corey. So we'll talk soon.
All right. Talk to you then.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.